happened to YouTubers, man? I can't not say anything anymore. This is selling stuff for the sake of making money. Simple. How does this benefit their fans? This is selling crap to kids who don't know better than to trust the people who are selling it to them. Do better! Do better!
KSI, KSI, KSI. Now, before I go into this argument, I want to first say I want to take it easy on KSI, because not only is he getting ratioed on Twitter by DanTDM and his own fan base, but him, like many other Arsenal fans, took a first of many L's this season when John Stones got that 90+8 header in order to secure the win for Man City for the 8th time in the PL season. Let me just go ahead and say to KSI and all fellow Gooners, rip the season, it's over, this is the beginning of the end, and this is coming from a Barcelona fan. Now, listen, when it comes to YouTube drama, as of late, a lot of people have been thirsty and fiending for a lot of different things to complain about and go after. And there's been more scrutiny, especially after seeing the acts of Mr. Beast and his cohorts. And unfortunately for KSI and Logan Paul, they decided to make a product with Mr. Beast, which in my opinion already put a negative eye on it. And what it is actually pretty genius. It's basically a Lunchables competitor. And the reason why I think it's genius is because I personally can't think of a Lunchables competitor. I mean, when you think of, you know, chips, you think of Doritos, Ruffles, Lay's. When it comes to Lunchables, it's like, bro, it's Lunchables. It's almost like Kleenex with tissues. There is no competitor. So they kind of came together. Mr. Beast brought the chocolate, KSI and Logan Paul brought the Prime, and then the mega corporation that's backing this basically brought the same old ingredients of Lunchables, where it's the baby pizza or the baby chicken turkey sandwich, or cheese and crackers. It's basically a lunch kit that's geared towards kids, and in my opinion it actually doesn't seem that bad. I mean, people are saying it's an obvious cash grab, that YouTubers are using this in order to make money as opposed to do anything positive for their fan base. To that, I'll basically say that since the inception of YouTube, people have been selling overpriced merch to kids, and that doesn't help anyone either. So I don't think it's really that big of a deal. It's more so grandstanding and just negativity. But that's not what KSI said. KSI made a response video to this after having DanTDM own him on Twitter. People complaining that he was basically going down the money grubbing route with Logan Paul and Mr. Beast. And his own subreddit basically turned against him, saying that this is going to be another scenario where JJ comes out, doubles down on his stupidity, eventually apologizes for his reaction, and from there kind of mellows things out. And it seems like that's going to be the case, because KSI just dropped a video that you would think would be addressing this controversy, but instead decided to yap for about 20 minutes, and it's extremely discombobulated. It's extremely not coherent. It's basically him reacting to Reddit posts, and as he reacts to Reddit posts, he kind of explains his take and information. In my opinion, I think it would have benefited him a lot better if he had just made a concise 5-minute video saying, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I own Prime Hydration. I believe that this is something that is good for kids, because as Lunchables exists, Lunchly will be a competitor. And when you look at the contents of the food, it's basically similar, if not a little bit better. And this is something they kind of already hinted at and said, but it's basically a natural progression of their existing products of having Mr. Beast and Prime that come together, and then that third pesky part being the actual food part. Now, in my opinion, again, this doesn't really matter much, and KSI kind of hints at that, you know, 10 minutes into the video where he was rambling all over the place, and eventually gets to the point to say that at the end of the day, this is just a lunch kit.
I'm literally just making a company where I make a product that is better than the competition. And actually, let's take a step back and look at the whole fucking situation. These motherfuckers are complaining about a lunch kit. That's what this whole thing is about. A lunch kit. There's way more crazier things happening in this world, but people want to go in on this lunch fucking kit. What are we doing? What are we doing here?
Which is true, and that's fair, and I think that he does also explain later on that this is a quote-unquote natural progression of his business, which also does make sense. But with all this being said, he presents this in such a bad way, and he creates a lot of strawman arguments. Repeatedly throughout the video, he'll say things like, these guys expect me to be perfect and not sell things online that have anything to do with candy or bad products for kids. Meanwhile, DanTDM 10 years ago sold a munch pack to his fans, and repeatedly he creates strawman arguments just to tear them down. Like, for example, he mentions that he said something on Twitter, and one response out of a billion basically had just racist remarks. So he decided to highlight this and create a strawman argument saying that people were being racist to him, even though 99.9% of people were just calling him out for looking for the bag and looking for money and trying to squeeze more money out of his young fan base. So again, I don't really understand why he went down that route other than to construct a straw man in order to knock down. And again, this is pretty clear cut and pretty easy. He simply could have just said that he doesn't necessarily think it's that big of a deal, nor is it hypocritical. And in all reality, it could have been as simple as saying that he stands behind his idea and he wants to do that. But instead, he created a bunch of strawman arguments, created a bunch of scenarios where he was right and his fan base was wrong. And I think one big thing that he did incorrectly is that he would tear down his fan base by saying they're sleeper cell DanTDM fans, when in reality they're just regular KSI fans, and unfortunately for him, they're over the age of puberty, so they have a little bit of cognitive dissonance and critical thinking abilities, where they don't really see the benefit of him teaming up with Mr. Beast in order to make a weirdo Lunchables collab. In my opinion, I think it is genius, and it is something that will be a legitimate competitor. But at the same time, I can understand the fan base seeing this business transaction and this business idea. And to be fair, the only reason I would think that it's overwhelmingly negative is because it is attached to Mr. Beast and his crappy candy bar. But in all reality, I think that the reaction to this would have been similar. But again, this is one of those cases where KSI and other YouTubers get criticized. They basically get pushed to the point where they need to respond, and they do a really bad job of it, and they do a poor job of it. And it's actually pretty funny because now this is more than likely going to spawn more people commenting about it, saying KSI's unhinged and not able to basically formulate an argument as to why his business practice is legitimate. And it's pretty funny to me because everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean mostly everybody, was against this idea and against KSI, except for the investors, because again, it does seem like a actual competitor to Lunchables. And all KSI had to do was try to basically give it to his fans with Vaseline, try to put it in slow, try to convince them, say, hey guys, I know this isn't necessarily the best thing for society, but at the end of the day, Lunchables exists. Little kids will drink soda, little kids will eat candy, little kids will do things that are not healthy. I myself, as one of those little kids, as childhood obesity was closer to me than my left ventricle vein. So, you know, just because a little kid is, you know, supposed to be a item to be protected in society, it doesn't mean necessarily that, you know, kids aren't drinking soda, kids aren't eating candy. I can't believe I'm even saying this argument. This is such a nonsense. Who cares? Who gives a shit? Like, literally just absolute boring take. I just realized how much disinterested I am in this. And honestly, KSI could have just done the simple route of saying, look at how fat these kids are. I'm only adding to what these fatsos are going to eat anyway. Who cares? You're trying to tell me. As a matter of fact, what KSI should have done as a response, he should have said, every person who's complaining about me, show me your pitch perfect physique. Show me you at the gym right now eating healthy and eating right, as opposed to a bunch of McDonald's Discord warriors online complaining because this guy's making a business that eventually will get money and little kids will end up eating. And this lunch kit, ironically, probably in total is like 300 calories. It's probably not even that unhealthy. So in all reality, this is really boring and really hilarious just because of the fact that KSI was not able to respond in a manner to simply say, there's a lot of fat kids and a lot of money to be made from fat kids. And in my opinion, he could have just simply been honest, but instead he tried to create strawmans and attack things that didn't even exist. Bro was basically shadowboxing when he was already in the ring fighting an opponent. But in my opinion, this is a much to do about nothing. All the people complaining are people who probably never buy Lunchables, and all the people who are saying this is terrible are probably the same people who will have no effect on this business-wise. But again, KSI should probably take a little bit of public speaking 101 because he decided to go on a yap session as opposed to address the main point.
At the end of every single video, make sure you ask people to rate and subscribe to your content. It makes them feel like they're involved even though they're really not. And most importantly, make sure they comment on every single video. If you have to, disguise it. You know, call it something like the question of the day. And really make them think you're gonna really read it when you really don't have to. Ha ha ha!